Welcome back to another episode of Realty Bytes, conversations on real estate and lifestyle. Now, if you're thinking about buying your first home or you know someone who is, then this episode is a must listen. Today, we're tackling the 4 most common questions every first-time homebuyer needs answered and the 3 big mistakes that can cost you in the long run. But here's the thing. This isn't just for first-timers. Even if you've been out of the real estate game for a few years, trust me, things have changed. And this information will help you navigate the market with confidence. I'm Evelyn Lopes, and today I'm joined by fellow realtors Ruth Ballantyne, who serves the Brampton, Mississauga, and surrounding communities, Craig and Colleen Bush, who serve the Ancaster, Hamilton, and surrounding communities, and myself, Evelyn Lopes, serving the Caledon, Erin, Orangeville, and surrounding areas. You know, as I was preparing for our chat this morning, I realized that together we have well over 100 years of experience between us. That is crazy. We've been on the front lines helping buyers move into their dream homes, and we've seen firsthand the challenges they face. Today, we're sharing some invaluable information to help you or someone you know who is thinking about buying a home, especially those first-time home buyers. Imagine you've spent years saving for that down payment. Finally, you're ready to make the leap, but you walk into a market that feels overwhelming. Interest rates, bidding wars, paperwork, it's enough to make anyone hesitate. But the good news is you don't have to do this alone. Whether you're buying your first home or it's been a while since you've dipped your toes into the real estate market, we're here to share the insider tips that you need to know. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive in, because buying a home doesn't have to be scary when you've got the right information in your back pocket. So let's jump into today's discussion. What first-time buyers need to know. We're going to answer the common questions and share the mistakes to avoid. So whether you're buying a home in Brampton, Hamilton, or Caledon, we've got you covered. So good morning, Craig, Colleen, and Ruth. Welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you guys here again. We're always in conversation, our little group here, and talking about, the market, what's happening with our different clients, the changes, and there has been a lot going on in the real estate market, especially over the last little while. And in our recent conversation, we were talking about some of our first-time buyers that we're working with and how they come to us and some of the things they think are true that aren't true, and just kind of the overwhelm that they're feeling. And so we thought today we would share some of our insights to help you navigate this evolving world. And I thought maybe we could start with some of the common questions that our clients are often asking us. I guess the first one is, how does this overall home buying process work? So maybe we can tackle that one first.
Well, you know what, when we meet with somebody for the first time, one of the things that just actually frames the entire conversation is understanding your budget and how much you can afford. So, we do absolutely need to assess your financial situation. Take a look at some of the things that, on the surface, there's so many, if you will, tools online that can lead you down a rabbit hole and sometimes just give you limited information. So, we'll take a look at your income, your savings, your debt. In a true mortgage professional is going to look at your, credit score and in some of the underlying facts that a simple online tool does not have the capability of doing. This is an individual situation that you need to get the situation right when you're determining how much home you can afford.
Mm-hmm. And even little details too, when you're talking about that budget, the computer's not going to tell you little things like don't go out and buy a car or don't go out and get in debt, because guess what? That will all be taken into consideration when you do meet with your mortgage broker. That's kind of a big no-no, is you do not want to make a big purchase before you're buying your big house or whatever size house that is. So, there's just different things like when you're going through the process, how important it is to have that conversation with your agent.
Right. And I think one of the first things that we do, and we probably do it unconsciously because we've been doing this for so long, is when we meet with a client, we want to really understand what's important to them. So why are they even thinking about making a move? Maybe they're living with parents, maybe they're renting. What is their motivation? What's so important about making this purchase? And what do they want to achieve from this purchase and this move? So maybe they want to get into the market. They want to start building equity. They want to be out on their own. That's all great, but there's other things. How do they want to live their lifestyle? Do they want to be still able to do the things that they used to do? So maybe they went on a vacation every year. Maybe they like to do sports and other things. Maybe they don't like to have too long a commute to work. So it's really finding out why they want to move and what's important in their own lives so that we can try and mirror it. And the reason finding out what their lifestyle is like. If they like to go on holidays every year and they end up buying a house that is to their absolute maximum, they're going to feel a little bit stretched and they might not financially be able to do those things that they enjoyed in the past. So home ownership, there is a cost to home ownership, but you also want it to be something that is enjoyable, that's not stressing you out, that really is going to be a benefit for you in the long run. So that's where, as you said, Craig, getting that financing in place is really important. But I think another thing is to really determine why you're making this move. What's important about this move to you? Location? Is it lifestyle? There's a whole bunch of other things that you have to think about, right?
And that's so true. And one of the absolutely fun things, and we enjoy doing so much, is you have a couple, you're sitting down with them, and it's amazing just how diverse or sometimes polar their interests are regarding the purchase of a home. The husband, or the wife, might want the garage, or the shed or something, and the other person might be totally into the, dining, kitchen, preparation of food, the heart of the home, they're thinking, different, thoughts toward the purchase. So often just talking to them about the time frame, this home, might be a starter home for you. So, at that point, let's try to find something that might serve you well where you are today and for the future, for the next, 4, 5, 6, 10 years or something. So let's kind of, think down the road, 5 years, down the road, do you think you might have started a family by then? What do you think your needs might be to change? And really kind of challenge the couple or challenge the individual on what their needs might be in the future. Because, real estate is a fantastic long-term investment. It can be an expensive, painful, horrible short-term, investment. So we want to make sure that, people are aligned with what would really serve them best regarding their future purchase.
Mm-hmm. And also to add on to that too is just how important that location is, because you can't change the location. You can change the interior. You can change a lot about the house, but getting a beautiful house in a not so good neighborhood that you don't feel safe in, that you don't really like, but you love the inside, would not be something we would advise. So anyway, that's kind of part of the process as you go along. Sometimes you have to take a look at it and realize that, oh yeah, you know what, that would not be a good decision because I don't feel comfortable in that area. I wouldn't go out at night. Even though the house ticks off all the boxes, it wouldn't be a good purchase because that location is not suitable for you.
And I think a good tip for anybody making a move, whether it's their first move or their 50th move, is to make that list. What are the things that I must have, I'm not willing to give up? And what are the things that I would like to have? Because we all are constrained by budgets and it's going to be a little bit of give and take. So determining what is something you can't live without versus what you want to have is a good way to start. And as Ruth, you had said, putting that in conjunction with your financial ability to do so, right? So the other thing in terms of financing is, I think it's a big mistake that a lot of people don't do, is getting that pre-approval in place before you start looking. And so maybe we can touch on some of the benefits of doing that, getting that pre-approval, and some of the things that would be a detriment to you if you don't get that pre-approval.
Yeah, I think getting a pre-approval is absolutely one of the things you have to do right at the beginning, because it allows you to see exactly how much money you can spend. And from that, everything else develops. Whereas if you go out looking for a house and you have an idea of what you want in your head and you find it and then you fall in love with it and you can't buy it because you can't afford it, that totally changes the way you feel about buying a house. So if you do the process where you start, you get pre-approved, you know what you can afford, you know what the interest rates, and you may have different options for financing that if you start at the beginning, you may be able to see those different options that you didn't think of before you actually started the process.
Right. And I think one of the first questions when you are putting an offer in on a property, the seller is going to ask, have you been pre-approved? And if you haven't been pre-approved, they're going to go, wow, this isn't really a very strong offer. And whether you're in competition or not, their willingness to negotiate strongly with you is going to be not there. So think of it this way. You're selling your house and you've got two people who are coming with an offer. One says, hey, I've been pre-approved with X bank. Everything is in place. I've submitted all my documents. It is going to be conditional on financing, but really that financing condition is to make sure that the bank approves your house. That's a different conversation from going into a seller and saying, hey, I want to come in conditional on my getting my financing, but I haven't submitted any documents. I haven't been in touch with the mortgage broker, or I have, and I've just kind of given them some numbers and they've given me some numbers, but nothing is in writing. And I need you to take your house off the market for 5 banking days while I go and do this. They're going to be like, why would I do that? So you need to have your ducks in the row. It will give you, first of all, peace of mind, knowing that you feel comfortable with your payments. It's going to give you a stronger position when it's time to negotiate. It's also going to protect you. If rates go up and you are pre-approved, they actually cap those rates so that you're not going to pay the higher rate if it comes in within your pre-approval time. But if the rates go down, you'll still be able to negotiate a lower rate. So it's a win-win for you in terms of rates. And then also you can work out your payments to make sure that they are comfortable for you. And as Ruth said, there's all kinds of different options. We'll touch on that in a little bit in terms of helping you lower your payments or reduce your overall payments over time. So lots of benefits, I think, from having that pre-approval in place.
Absolutely. And even just knowing that, and then your closing costs, which could run you, maybe 2 to 5% of your purchase price, then you're not trying to figure that out at the end, because you really do know how much you have in your pocket. So X amount is going for the purchase price, for the down payment, for my closing costs, for my legal fees. You feel secure about what you're going into, that you don't have to wonder, is this going to work out? Because you've already done it. You've done the homework. So doing the homework with your mortgage broker and your real estate agent, that's key, number one.
or just even anticipating what the needs are. It's as simple as that. But what that does for the buyer is give them confidence. They have the confidence to know exactly what they can afford. It puts some boundaries. No, we can't look at those homes. They're simply too high. And it just creates a situation to when you have the confidence to know how much you can afford. Then it makes the next step, which is of course shopping for the homes, that much more enjoyable, because you know that you have the ability to purchase what you're looking at, and it just makes the entire process so much more stress-free. And who wants really that kind of unknowing of, can I really afford this? Can we really stretch ourselves that way? So understanding your budget and understanding how much you can get approved for are absolutely two critical pieces of the puzzle in getting started on this home purchase journey.
Okay. So in relation to financing, which is a huge part of buying a home, we touched on the fact that there are some additional costs in purchasing. And so, Colleen, you had mentioned it's anywhere between 2 and 5%, depending on the house. So let's maybe just kind of give our viewers some of the different costs that would be involved. So we would have, first of all, our legal fees. So the lawyer's fees for them to register the title, to search title, to register the mortgage. We would have our CMHC insurance mortgage fees if you are putting less than 20% down. And that's actually built into the mortgage. So you don't need to have that money up front. However, you do have to have your HST on those fees up front. There's a home inspection fee. So we would highly recommend that you have the home inspected, whether it's a brand new home I always tell my clients, a condo or a resale, it's good to know what you're getting into beforehand so that you can, first of all, learn about the house, because they will kind of go through how the house works, how it should be maintained. And also you will be aware if there's anything that needs to be updated, if there's any serious safety concerns with the home. And if you do find that, you have choices, right? You can renegotiate on price, you can have the seller fix them, or if it's something really big, you can walk away at that point, right? So it gives you options there. There's land transfer tax, which would be a big fee, and that is based on the purchase price of the home. So you have to pay more tax. We love that one.
The nice thing about that, if it's the first-time buyer can get $4,000 off the land transfer tax. So that's definitely something you want to talk to your agent about, these programs that will save you some money, and that's one of them.
Right. And so actually there's two land transfer taxes that are possible. One is the provincial one for the province of Ontario. If you're buying within the city of Toronto, they have their own land transfer tax. So we call it the double cohort tax, which is about the same as the provincial tax. So you want to be able to budget for that. And as Colleen mentioned, there are some programs for first-time buyers only. And for both of those areas, there is a rebate. So you can speak to your agent and your realtor, and they can tell you how that's going to work, what the actual land transfer tax is going to be, and what your rebate will be as well. What other types of fees?
Well, costs, if you're not buying a resale home and you're buying a new home, there's additional costs that sometimes people don't take into consideration, mainly a tree, which is often when you buy a new detached house, you have to buy a tree from the city. And that can range in price. $700 is not unusual to see for a tree. And that's a cost that on closing, if you haven't taken into consideration that extra $700, that's a surprise. But you also have hookup costs for hydro, and you have hookup costs for gas and things like that aren't the same in a new home as they are in a resale home. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration.
Right. And the other thing too is if you're buying a new condo, you may go in there and the condo might not be fully registered. So you actually end up paying what's an occupancy fee, and that amount may have nothing to do what your mortgage payments would have been. So it's important to know that as well. Other costs would be property tax adjustments, and that can be a big one depending on the time of year that you're purchasing. So basically, everybody pays for their fair share. So the seller will pay for everything that they've used in the property up until the day before closing. The buyer will pay for everything from the day of closing onwards. So say you move into a house and you move in on December the 1st. And for easy numbers and math, let's pretend that the taxes were $1,200 a year, which you probably won't see, but let's just pretend. And by December, the seller has probably paid the taxes for the full year. And you're moving in on December the 1st. So the lawyers will do an adjustment on closing, and you'll be required to pay for the taxes from December the 1st to December the 30th. So that number will be added. So if you bought the house for, and let's just use easy numbers for my math, you'll have a bill for $101,000. Thank you, Colleen, on closing. And you're like, why? I only bought this for $100,000, because they will do adjustments on taxes and utilities. Now, it could be more, it could be less. So if the seller hasn't paid their taxes for the year, that number would be reduced from the purchase price. So, just keep in mind that there are those adjustments on closing.
There could be title insurance, again, which is usually bundled with the legal fees, but that might be anywhere from $200 to $400 or so to add to the closing cost. And title insurance is a wonderful program to protect you regarding some title issues. And there's also some enhancements that can, protect you against even, title fraud, where somebody tries to steal your home, frankly. So those can be wonderful things. Don't forget to budget for moving, costs. So those, to hire a mover or to even, rent a truck and the related equipment, get boxes and stuff like that, can add up relatively quickly.
And sometimes you move to a different area, your car insurance goes up.
And sometimes it goes down, depending where you're moving.
Depending on where you buy.
Yeah. And so your realtor can help you with that. And speaking of that, not only can your car insurance go up or down, but so can your taxes. Some areas are notoriously high in property taxes, and you could just go across the street and be in another district and your taxes could be way lower. Right. So that's why location, as Colleen had mentioned earlier, is so important. It's important that you feel comfortable with your community, that it works for you distance wise, but there's all these other hidden either benefits or withdrawals of a specific location. And that's where a realtor really can give you some insights that you probably haven't thought about and most likely are unaware of as well. And I guess one other thing is just, some of the miscellaneous costs that would be possible. Things like changing your locks on the house. Maybe you are buying a house and it doesn't have all the appliances included. So you might have to buy a fridge or a stove or a washer dryer, window coverings, things like that. So just, know that there might be some other expenses that you will incur. And again, that's where your realtor can help you. They can try, if you are purchasing a resale, to try and get all of those things included in your purchase price so that you're sort of covered. And if not, such as in a new home, they can sort of give you a guide as to what you should expect to pay for some of those things. And I know from us, we all have our little stash of people that we work with, window cover guys, carpet guys, hardwood floor guys, kitchen guys, that we can help you get in contact with those people as well who can provide good service at reasonable prices as well. Anything else before we move on from this one?
I think that absolutely covers sometimes the unknown fees. And I mean, unknown fees by definition, there may be things that aren't quite planned for, may be a little bit different. There's no way to check ahead how much the seller, for example, with the property taxes had paid in advance of closing, those type of things. So having a little bit of a safety net, some money set aside for the unexpected cost. And when you move in with the other transition, those miscellaneous costs, the things that you're going to want to attend to, even if it's just some paint and some cleaning solutions or whatever, that can add up pretty quickly. So just don't put yourself into a pinch. When you plan for this, it just makes the entire process that much easier.
So the other common mistake I think people often forget about is getting access to some of the government programs, especially for first-time buyers, that can help them get into the housing market. So there are actually quite a few programs that are available, and they are available at both the provincial and municipal levels. And I think getting in touch with a realtor will, first of all, let you know what those programs are. And secondly, whether you qualify for those programs. And you want to make sure that you don't miss out on anything because you're only a first-time buyer once. So maybe we can touch on just quickly some of the programs that are available.
Well, one of the first ones that we discussed with the first-time home buyers is the federal home buyers plan. And that is a plan which would allow buyers to withdraw up to $35,000 from their RRSP, which is brought out tax-free. And you can put toward the down payment or other closing cost, other material things that you need for the property. Now, again, this specific incentive needs to be paid back into the RRSP over a 15-year period. If you choose not to pay back that year's withdrawal, that gets added to your income. So there may be some other tax and financial implications as well that you may want to consider. But it is a exceptional way if you've been storing away savings in a RRSP to be able to help you purchase that first home.
One of the great things about that too, that it's little used. People don't really use it as often as they might want to. And that's that if you have a parent that is willing to help you, there's a way that you can actually use the RRSP program to get a rebate from the government. And it takes 90 days to use it. But a lot of real estate agents will be able to help you with that. And it would boost your down payment somewhere around $20,000. So that's a good thing to ask your real estate agent if you would qualify to use that in the RRSP program.
Okay. We talked previously about some of the land transfer tax rebates, both provincially and for the City of Toronto. And that would be another savings of about $4,000 provincially and another $4,000 for the City of Toronto. So you want to tap into those.
Which is another exceptional thought to avoid Toronto altogether and come to Hamilton.
That's right. Caledon and anywhere in Peel too. We don't have that second point, the land transfer tax.
And speaking of lowering taxes, you can make sure that if you're a first-time buyer on your tax form, make sure that you place that you are a first-time buyer, and you can save $750 there, which you can only do when you're a first-time buyer. So that's good. And then the government also has the first-time buyer incentive. So that it's another program that you can actually, the government will parallel what you have. And then when your home sells, say 25 years down the road or whatever the profit is, they will kind of split the difference. So again, that's something you could talk to your agent about, but there are other ways of helping you get into the market with the government help.
Right. And two other programs that are going to be coming into effect as of December 15th, 2024. The first one is in relation to down payments and insured mortgages. Previously, right across Canada, the cap for an insured mortgage, which means you put less than 20% down, was $1 million. But we know that there are some markets, especially Vancouver and the Toronto market, where first-time buyers often are spending over $1 million, believe it or not, to get into their first home. So this new program is going to be raising that cap to $1,500,000 for first-time buyers to be able to purchase with less than 20% down. And the second one is the 30-year amortization. I think that's the bigger of the two. And basically, it will allow first-time home buyers to be qualified on a 30-year AM as opposed to a 25-year AM. So it means they're spreading out the payments over 30 years, which will lower your monthly carrying costs. It will also increase the amount that you qualify for. However, there is a caveat with that program. If you are amortizing your mortgage repayment over 30 years, over the long term, you will be paying more for the house because of the higher interest costs that you will incur. But I guess the overall theme is that there are lots of different programs from lots of different government bodies. So speak with your realtor, let them kind of get into your situation better, and then they can let you know which programs you qualify for, and more importantly, how to get access to them.
And one other thing too is over the last 4 years, it's been quite a different market, the ups and downs. But if you were a purchaser, somebody thinking about making a move during those years, it would be easy just to stay on the sidelines. But this is the time right now to get out of the sidelines and to get into the market because the interest rates are good. There's a good supply. You're able to put in offers and actually put in conditions in your offers. So you can be very, very well protected in this kind of a market. So if you're thinking about it, get out there, start looking, put an offer in, start getting in the game, and you will be surprised what you can get in this market.
Right. And there is a lot of pent-up demand. I think over the last 2 years, when we had higher interest rates and just a little bit of uncertainty, people kind of went on the sidelines. We've seen the last 3 Bank of Canada announcements. The overnight lending rate was reduced each and every time. We've got another one just coming up, right? So, and they're expecting another reduction in those rates. That, in addition to these new programs that are coming up in December, will allow more and more people to feel more confident in buying and more able to get into the market, which is going to then increase that demand. So you're absolutely right, Colleen. Right now, there is inventory on the market. You've got choice. You've got the ability to negotiate. So yeah, get your pre-approval in place. Get with a realtor. Start investigating areas and the process, and you'll be in a much better situation. I think Warren Buffett always says, don't do what the crowd does, right? So when the crowd is buying, don't buy. When the crowd isn't buying, that's when you should get into the market. And I would say the same thing with real estate. Do it before everybody else does.
And I think one of the biggest things that you touched on there was the negotiation. Right now, you have the opportunity to put in conditions for financing and inspection and whatever else you want, lawyers' approval, insurance. Like there's lots of things that you may want to actually have your house conditional on. And while the market is not as hot as it was before, and you're not competing for homes with other people, this is an optimal time to buy something, feel confident in buying what you want at a better price, and also have the built-in knowledge that you can put in conditions so that you're making sure all your ducks are in a row and you can move forward confidently.
And the other thing that you touched on, Ruth, that was really important is these conditions to your offer. I mean, most people have heard of some of the basic ones: conditional on financing, conditional on home inspection, maybe conditional on the sale of the buyer's property if you were a resale buyer. But there are so many. And I am amazed sometimes when I'm on the listing end of certain properties and we're selling and I'm expecting these conditions to come in and the agents don't even touch on them. So things like for rural properties, is it conditional on a water test, a flow test, a potability test? Is it conditional on septic? Is it conditional on, there's just so many things. If there's a pool, is it conditional on the pool? Closing, things like that. So again, this is where an experienced good realtor will give you good advice as to what those conditions should be, dependent on the property that you're buying, right? Because sometimes you don't need them. Sometimes you absolutely do, right?
And I think that just kind of leads into one of the common things that we see, especially in today's market with first-time home buyers. A lot of them just want to kind of do it on their own. They want to do as much research. They want to try to get as much knowledge as possible. And that's a valuable thing for them to try to do. But often we see there's just so much conflicting information on the internet. My goodness. And depending on, you have to consider the source. Just because they're on TikTok or Instagram does not make them an expert, certainly an expert in the area that you're choosing to purchase a property. So a local expert, can simplify the situation, give you the step-by-step process on the home buying, process, what, things you qualify for, don't qualify for, getting the mortgage pre-approval, and really simplify. And one of the additional benefits is that once the agent knows what you're looking for, they have access to what we might call shadow inventory, properties that are coming soon. They are not on the market. And, again, even just, I bet within the circle here, I bet there's, 25, 30 homes that we know of that will be coming on the market at some point. And, if, often the best properties may never hit the market. They might be sold, wrapped up, before they hit the market with the amount of, buyers that we have. So again, we can make that kind of, matching program to help locate the properties that aren't on the MLS. You're not going to be able to find them. They are, shadow inventory. They're pre-listed homes that a top agent can either already have access to, or number one, find for you, so that you can potentially be the only buyer looking at that property and give you priority access to sometimes foreclosure, distress sale properties, and like I said, some of this shadow inventory that is not commonly available to people outside the people in the know.
That's a great takeaway. And then also just remember that when you are working with a realtor, they're working and you're being represented, they are working in your best interest. And they actually have a fiduciary duty towards you to do what's best for you. So, and that's, everything, also including we talked about what clauses to put in terms of condition, but just clauses themselves. One little word in a clause can be to your benefit or not, right? So it's really important to have someone who knows what they're doing kind of look everything over and really explain and guide you through the process so that you can make informed decisions and do what's best for you and your family.
All right. And one of the, again, just a common question that buyers, rightly ask is just, okay, this agent's working for me. How do they get paid? And again, we talked about some of the closing costs and such like that. And the realtor fees are not in essence part of that, closing fee situation. You never have to reach into your pocket, generally to pay the realtor. The realtor is compensated out of the proceeds of sale, so out of the purchase price of the property. So you get the benefit of having representation, as Evelyn was eloquent in saying as well. You get the confidence of knowing that you're getting the right local information, and the fee, if you will, is somewhat transparent. It is held within the proceeds of sale. So don't let the thought that you have to reach in your pocket and cut into additional check or anything additional in that sense. The fees are held within the purchase price or the proceeds of sale.
Okay, so I think that is a lot of great information for our listeners. So essentially, there is a lot of moving parts that are involved in purchasing a home. I think we've highlighted some of the things that you should definitely be aware of. And, this really will hopefully give you that peace of mind to make those decisions and know that there's a lot of different components involved in purchasing a home. And hopefully today's conversation will have given you some insight into some of the things that you should be aware of. And hopefully it's going to make this home buying journey a much more comfortable and less stressful experience for you. So if you have any specific questions about buying a home, feel free to reach out to us. Again, if you're looking in the Hamilton, Burlington area, Colleen and Craig Bush from the Bush Realty team will be happy to answer your questions. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you, Craig and Colleen?
They can call 905-308-1877. That's my direct line. You can call or text that number.
Okay. And if you're looking to purchase a home in the Brampton, Mississauga, and surrounding areas, Ruth Ballantyne and the Ballantyne Realty team have been longtime realtors, and they would be happy to field any questions that you may have. And Ruth, what is the best number for our listeners to reach out to you?
416-779-8732. That is also my direct line. We'd be happy to help.
Great. And if you're thinking about buying out in the country in the Caledon, Orangeville area, my team and I would be happy to help you. You can reach me direct at 905-965-5902. And I'm going to put all of those contact numbers and emails and websites in the show notes below. So if you don't have a pen with you, just look below and all of those details will be there. Thank you again so much for joining me this morning on the podcast, Realty Bytes, Conversations on Real Estate and Lifestyle. As always, it's a pleasure speaking with you.
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.